Hi, welcome to Art All Night. We are excited to be participating in this event as women business owners, small business owners here in DC. We're in the Uptown Main Street corridor along Kennedy Street. We are Kennedy Counseling. My name is Heidi Vanderwerf.
I'm Marjorie Strackman-Miller.
And we are going to be talking today about relationship resiliency, something that we can all relate to right now during COVID times. And so we'll be addressing different relationships in our lives and what to look for and what to be worried about and how to increase coping in ourselves and our relationships so that we can build that relationship resiliency during this time, even in this time during the COVID crisis. So welcome. We're going to be asking each other some questions, and we did not prepare in advance, and so it's going to be a little bit off the cuff and talking about our experiences with our clients, our personal experiences, and sort of bringing our knowledge to you in this event. In some ways, it's like the art of relationships. So,
yes.
Thanks for listening and for your time.
So I'll go ahead and ask the first question for Heidi. So what have you been hearing from clients during the pandemic about what's been straining and what's been strengthening relationships?
Mm-hmm. So I've been hearing a myriad of things, and there's certainly been different phases in it, but and it certainly depends on the clients and what kinds of relationships they're in, whether they're starting relationships on Zoom during COVID or whether they're long time married with kids at home. But I would say that there's opportunity in our relationships right now if we can get ourselves to see that. So I'll talk about the things that I've seen that have gone well, or are people talking about being able to spend more time together because they're home, they don't have to commute, more sort of balance and care with children because they're both home and seeing the demands and are present for that. And for those who are in the dating world right now, I have seen clients talk about how this has like slowed down the pace of dating, and they're seeing the benefits of that, of this sort of taking time to get to know somebody virtually before meeting in person, and then because of safety restrictions, continuing to kind of move relationships forward slowly, and the benefits that could have in the long run for our relationships, for knowing ourselves in relationships and knowing the relationship. And of course, on the other side of things, there's possibility for resentment growing because of imbalance with child care or with household expectations. There can be strains because our usual support networks are not sort of available to support the couple, outside friends, and childcare and school and things like that that allow the couple to function if they're parenting. But even if not, the sort of extracurricular activities outside of the relationship are not there, and so there can be resentment or sort of disconnect in the relationship as a result.
Yeah, you're kind of saying it's two sides of the same situation, right? Like it can be really great and create closeness, and it can also be too much and get old.
Yeah. So finding that happy medium most days, calling it good.
Uh-huh.
From you, Marjorie, what coping skills have you seen people engage in since the pandemic? And of coping skills, what has been helpful and what has been more concerning that you've heard about or seen?
Yeah, I think that we're all sort of grasping for whatever coping we have in our toolkit. So there's been some of the more, in research, there's negative coping and there's positive coping. And so the more negative coping, which is still things that people need a lot of the time, is basically just to kind of get our minds off of things, which, people are drinking more, people are, watching
TV.
more TV,
Yes.
marathoning, especially I think people who are living on their own or, don't have kids are doing that. So that's some of the more, like avoidant coping that I think is going on. And then some of the more going towards things or the resiliency coping is forming pods with other families, getting social support. I think at the beginning there was a lot of Zoom calls. It seems to me, at least, like from what I talk about with people, that there's a little bit of burnout on that. So, and people now know being outside is safer. So there's outdoor meetups. And then I would say one of the biggest things is I think just being present in the little moments of life that we still have. So when you are outside, right now the air has changed and just, breathing in the cool air, or people are going apple picking or, whatever, things like that, just to create more grounding and presence in life, I think. Would you add anything?
No, I think that pretty much summarizes it. But certainly there's a shift turning into fall, and moving towards the holidays of like, okay, what can this look like, right? There's a lot of loss there, but like, what can we pull? Yes, we can still go apple picking. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can still have holidays. They're just going to look different. And so I think there's room for creativity, sort of once you work through the loss of these milestones.
In terms of relationships, what are some of the red flags that people can start to look for cropping up when they know, okay, maybe something needs to change here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll just name them, but I think many of us know them in our own relationships. And relationships is broad, right? It's not just with our partners, but it's with our kids, it's with our neighbors, it's with the other people in our pods. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it comes from, a burnout personally, when you're starting to feel that shortness with somebody else, that you're not taking care of yourself first. But what you might notice is that you're, more annoyed with the people around you, or easily angered. You might be raising your voice at your kids or your partner more often than you normally would, or feeling the dread of the day, difficulty sort of doing the things that you would normally do. And there's a norm to all of that, right? And then there's like a clinical to all of that. So certainly as clinicians, we're watching that for ourselves and for our clients and our team here, that we, we want to make sure that yes, there's sort of like a norm of maybe some additional depression and anxiety symptoms, but when it becomes overbearing, when it becomes too much and it's affecting not only us, but the people around us, because we're not managing it well, then that's when we need to seek help, or put some things in place to pull ourselves out of that space.
And I think, too, it's also kind of like doing the best that you can and knowing, that we're all functioning on a lower level right now. And, some of that comes with being kind to ourselves and having lower expectations a little bit too, but in a gentle way if possible.
How can parents adapt and work together to face the ongoing challenges during COVID as they raise children?
I think first and foremost, this is everybody's doing the best they can with what resources they have. So, so it's not, I don't think this is about like giving advice to, here's some systems you can put into place because...
Here's an app.
Yeah, I wish. So I think, again, it comes back to some of what you were saying of like going back inside and seeing, okay, so in what ways am I getting triggered about this situation, and in what ways are things imbalanced maybe in the relationship that, one partner is taking on more than the other. And also a lot of times that can point back to the relationship itself, I think, too. And so is it possible for us to carve out time for ourselves, even when we're exhausted? Is there one day of the week that typically we're less exhausted to check in? Or can we even maybe carve out some time for couples work, and prioritizing that so we can work as a team. So I think it kind of comes back to that, and just, always communicating, of course, and we always say, as therapists, well, what does communication really mean? But I think it's also about because I think we're all in the same space together all the time, but there can be a lot of disconnect in that, right? So because we're just kind of trying to get through our day and survive. And so how do you kind of intentionally reconnect and communicate and even plan sometimes? And I know that all sounds great, but it can be really hard. So acknowledging that too, that just kind of like we're all doing great, you know. It feels like we're not, but given the circumstances, given the context, we are doing well.
So this like idea of focusing on the relationship, the partnership in running a household and raising kids right now as the focus, knowing that if you're sort of strong in that, like the kid care, helping the kids nurture them through all of this and understand all of this, individual, developmentally appropriate ways will sort of come out of that. So sort of this top-down approach.
And not to mention, of course, there's also that some people have help. Some people have everyone in the household is working full-time jobs and they are really in a conundrum with childcare. You know, that there's all these different situations and stressors, and so just want to acknowledge that context that really plays into. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us and listen to some of the ideas that we have to say. You know, it's not all encompassing, and we would love to hear from you about your ideas. So feel free to visit our website, fill out a contact form, let us know what you think, or if it's a good time, visit us for services.
Thank you again for listening to our little bits of advice and reflection on building relationship resiliency, and we'll see you maybe next time.